Hey everybody, this is Andre here covering for Kevin on the Kevin Breeze channel, and in this video, we're going to be doing a comparison between the Samsung Galaxy A21 and the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus. These days, you can get the Samsung Galaxy A21 unlocked for many different carriers, and you can get the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus through T-Mobile or Metro by T-Mobile. To get more information about pricing and availability, or just to learn more about the devices in general, be sure to check the links in the description. The link for the Samsung Galaxy A21 will actually take you directly to the phone on Samsung's website, where they have a lot of trade deals that you might not be able to find anywhere else. That being said, let's get started. So the Samsung Galaxy A21 has a 6.5-inch IPS LCD display with a resolution of 720p, a PPI of 270, an aspect ratio of 20:9, and a screen-to-body ratio of 79.3%. The T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus has a 6.52-inch LCD display with a resolution of 720p, a PPI of 269, and an aspect ratio of 18:9. So these displays are definitely really similar. I personally feel like you're not going to really notice the difference in quality just by looking at them, especially individually. I don't think that if you get one phone, you're going to really think the display is a lot worse or a lot better than the other. Technically, the Samsung Galaxy A21 does have a slightly higher PPI, so there is that, but by a value of 1, it really isn't that big a difference. So the quality of the display on these phones is more or less going to be the same. As far as the overall look of the phones go, I feel like the Samsung Galaxy A21 does look a little bit better. As you see right here, the Samsung Galaxy A21 has a hole punch for a front-facing camera, whereas the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus has a water drop for the front-facing camera. And I honestly think the hole punch looks better. It makes it look a lot more clean and modern, whereas the water drop really just extends the bezel. It makes it look a little thicker and makes it look older. I do think the bezel for the Samsung Galaxy A21 overall is just a tiny bit thinner than that of the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus, and this might be because of the shape of the front-facing camera. That water drop really does feel like it's extending the bezel, so that might be part of it. Also, the aspect ratio does make the Samsung Galaxy A21 a bit taller than the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus. So really, in general, as far as the overall look goes, I think the Samsung Galaxy A21 does look a little bit better just because it looks more modern, a little more sleek. It's a little taller and skinnier, and I feel like that just gives it an overall more attractive look. Now that being said, both of the displays do look good. Now the Samsung Galaxy A21 has a 13 megapixel front-facing camera, and the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus has a 16 megapixel front-facing camera. Now, of course, by megapixels alone, it would appear that the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus does have a slightly better camera, but that might not entirely be the case because the quality of the camera not only depends on megapixels, but also the sensor. And it is possible that the Samsung Galaxy A21 does have a better sensor than the T-Mobile Revvl 4. Plus, with the megapixel number being so close, it could go either way. But you'll see more of that later on. Now, the Samsung Galaxy A21 has 32 gigabytes of internal storage with microSD card expansion, and the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus has 64 gigabytes of internal storage with microSD card expansion. Between the two, the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus definitely has a much better storage capacity. Even though both can be expanded with a microSD card, I personally prefer to have as much internal storage on the phone itself as possible, and in this case, the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus is definitely better. Right now, they both have the same amount of items downloaded onto them, as you can see with the A21 18.4 gigabytes and the Revvl 4 with 18.55 gigabytes. Right now, 57% of the A21 storage is being used as opposed to the 29% for the T-Mobile Revvl 4. Definitely a huge difference. The T-Mobile Revvl 4 has double the amount of storage as the Samsung Galaxy A21 has, and whether you're just using a device for basic activities, or you're doing a lot of content creation, or you have lots of larger apps, no matter what your situation is, I always say it's better to have more storage than not enough. So in this case, the T-Mobile Revvl 4 definitely has an edge. Now, neither of these phones have wireless charging, which is not entirely surprising since these are entry-level, getting into that mid-range of smartphones. And those phones don't typically have wireless charging. That's usually more of a feature for flagship phones. But both of these phones do have fingerprint scanners, and they're located in the exact same spot Right on the back here, really convenient and easy to use. Let's try them out now. Starting with the Samsung Galaxy A21. There we go, pretty fast. Let's try it one more time. No problems there, really fast and responsive. Let's try the scanner for the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus. One more time. So really, both phones have really fast and responsive fingerprint scanners. They're both located in the exact same spot, really easy to use. I don't think one is better than the other. I think they're pretty standard and they definitely work. Now, both of these phones also have face unlock, which is really nice. Depending on your activity, a fingerprint scanner or face unlock might be more convenient. And it's nice to be able to choose both because some might work better than others in certain situations. Taking a look at the camera setups here. For the Samsung Galaxy A21, we have a 16 megapixel rear camera, an 8 megapixel ultra wide camera, a 2 megapixel depth sensing camera, and a 2 megapixel macro camera. For the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus, we only have two cameras here, a 16 megapixel rear camera and a 5 megapixel depth sensing camera. Just by features alone, the Samsung Galaxy A21 definitely has a huge edge. It has not only a macro camera, but also an ultra-wide camera. And the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus has neither of these. The depth sensing camera might be good for portrait mode, but the Samsung Galaxy A21 has that as well. So really, just based on these features, I feel like the Samsung Galaxy A21 definitely has a big edge here. But let's try out the cameras and see how the quality holds up. So starting with the Samsung Galaxy A21, right off the bat, this image does look really nice and crisp. In my opinion, the colors are a little bit saturated for my taste at least, but it doesn't look bad. And then to get the ultra-wide camera, you hit this button right here. And there we go. It really does look good. I don't really see any distortion. And let's try out the macro camera. The macro camera is definitely good. You get a lot of really close-up details. One issue that I've had with Samsung Galaxy A series phones in the past that I'm not really seeing with this phone is how they handle exposure. A lot of the time, especially in the macro mode, for the Samsung Galaxy A51 and A71 5G, the macro camera always had this really bad glare that got in the way of the details, especially with this specific angle. And with the Samsung Galaxy A21, I'm really not seeing that. I really like it. It's really clear. You don't really see any glare or any unreasonable lighting. So overall, it's really nice. My only complaint, and it's not really a complaint, just a little detail, it's not quite as bright as you might expect. Now, in my opinion, this is still better than having a big glare getting in the way of the picture. But at the same time, I still would like to see it a little bit brighter. Now, this is the front-facing camera for the Samsung Galaxy A21. To be perfectly honest, I'm not really a big fan. The picture is a little bit grainy and it doesn't really look that crisp at all. You can just tell by looking at it that the quality really isn't that great. It really looks like one of the earlier front-facing cameras before front-facing cameras were really used for a whole lot. Let's try out the portrait mode. So this is the portrait mode for the front-facing camera. Again, I'm really not too impressed. The picture itself looks really grainy and the colors look completely drained. And not only that, but the contrast between the subject and the background is definitely not great. To me, it almost looks like a green screen with a blurred out background. It's really not very professional. If your main intention with a device is for content creation purposes, especially when it comes to photography, then this might not be the device for you because this front-facing camera just really isn't it. With the quality of the image, the color, and really everything else, it leaves a lot to be desired. One thing I do like is that you can control the blur of the portrait mode, but even that goes between not blurred at all and so blurry that you can really not even tell that it's portrait mode. It really just makes it look like somebody photoshopped you onto a blurry picture. It just doesn't really look that good. This is the normal camera mode for the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus. It really doesn't look bad. The lighting is definitely off. I can tell that. If you focus in one place, there's no exposure and it gets really blurry. If you focus in the other, it gets way too bright. It's a little difficult to find a sweet spot where you can get a good image with this camera. Maybe if you go like this, still it really, even when you zoom in and focus on different areas, it's a little bit difficult and the lighting just doesn't look right to me. Now this is the front-facing camera for the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus. To be perfectly honest, I'm really surprised. I was not expecting it to be this good. The image, especially compared to the Samsung Galaxy A21, is super crisp. The colors are great. Everything looks completely natural, whereas the Samsung Galaxy A21 had everything almost completely drained. Let's try out the portrait mode. So the portrait mode is not really the best, but it's definitely not bad, especially in comparison to the Samsung Galaxy A21. This portrait mode is actually usable. Even if you're using the phone for content creation, I still think that this portrait mode, it might not be the best compared to a higher end phone like the Samsung Galaxy A51 5G or the T-Mobile Revvl 5G. But this portrait mode is actually usable, and I do think you could take some good pictures, especially if you're good with the angles on here. All in all, as far as the camera goes, I was really expecting the Samsung Galaxy A21 to be the better camera, especially with all the extra features it had. But it turns out that the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus has a much better camera. Now, neither of them have a very good rear camera. I think the way these cameras handle exposure and lighting leaves a lot to be desired, especially for someone like me who's not really the greatest at finding the right angle for a camera. It's kind of frustrating to have to play around with the image for 10 minutes to get the right angle. But at the same time, even though the Samsung Galaxy has a better array of features on the camera itself, I really do like the front-facing camera for the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus, and I think it makes enough of a difference for me to say the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus does have a better camera. It's a lot more impressive, especially for what it is, and the colors make a lot more sense in my opinion. Now this difference stands for videos as well, as the Samsung Galaxy A21 can only shoot in 1080p for videos, whereas the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus can shoot in qualities up to 4K at 30 frames per second. Personally, if you're doing something as intense as videography and video editing, I wouldn't really say either of these phones are optimized for that. In that case, I would suggest looking at something like the A51 5G or the T-Mobile Revvl 5G, because that's going to require a better level to really get that type of effect. That being said, as far as which one of these is better, I definitely think the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus has better capabilities when it comes to photos and videos. Now internally, the Samsung Galaxy A21 is getting 3 GB of RAM with the MediaTek Helio P35 processor, and the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus is getting 4 GB of RAM with the Qualcomm Snapdragon 665 processor. Now, taking a look at their scores on the Geekbench 5 benchmark test, the Samsung Galaxy A21 has a single core score of 167 and a multi-core score of 1003, whereas the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus has a single core score of 311 and a multi-core score of 1386. So as you can see, the difference isn't super huge, but at the same time, there's no question that the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus definitely has a lot more processing power than the Samsung Galaxy A21. Really, with the Samsung Galaxy A21, you're most likely not going to want to go beyond those mid-range activities, like maybe some photo editing and content consumption, and maybe taking a few pictures here and there is going to work. But once you get into more intense activities, if you're doing videography or video editing or gaming, then the Samsung Galaxy A21 is most likely going to struggle a little. With the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus though, you're definitely going to be able to do a lot more. Even with those basic activities and the content consumption and taking photos and videos, it's going to be able to do those just as well as the Samsung Galaxy A21, but a lot faster. And with this phone, you're most likely going to be able to go into more intense activities like video editing and gaming that require more processing power. Now, if you're doing super intense things and doing those things all the time, then you're most likely going to want to look at a higher end device. But for the more mid-range activities, both of these phones are going to be good. But I would say because of the processing power, the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus is going to be able to handle more. Now, both of these phones have 4,000 milliamp hour batteries, which is great. It's not the biggest battery out there, but it's definitely going to get some good battery life, which is important if you're doing lots of activities that require a little bit more processing power, or if you're on the go and can't keep your phone plugged in all the time. Now, in conclusion, which one of these phones is better? Well, I would say based on the specs and the performance that we've seen, the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus is definitely the better phone. It's not only going to be able to handle a lot more due to its more powerful processor, but I think even though the camera doesn't have quite as many features, is a lot better quality. So whether you're doing content creation with photos and videos, or playing games that require a decent amount of processing power, the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus is most likely going to get the job done better. Now, if you're using your phone for just basic activities, nothing beyond browsing the web and social media, then you might not really notice that much of a difference between these two phones. But if you think you're going to be doing more intense activities and your carrier does support it, I would say the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus is the better device. That being said, as far as the appearance and design of the phone goes, I really do like the look of the Samsung Galaxy A21 a lot better. I think it looks a lot more modern and sleek, whereas the front-facing camera on the T-Mobile Revvl 4 Plus does look a little bit outdated and extends the bezel in a way that's really not necessary. I think a hole punch camera with the camera in that exact spot would look a lot better, and even though it's a really little thing, I do think it would make a difference. That being said, if you want to get any more information about the pricing and availability of these devices, be sure to check the links in the description. Again, the link for the Samsung Galaxy A21 will take you right to the phone on Samsung's website, where you might be able to find a good trade deal that you wouldn't get anywhere else. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.